Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday on October 11th. Thanks for tuning in to All Things Division III Soccer with SimpleCoach and Jackie. I am SimpleCoach. You might be able to see her. Jackie is tucked under a blanket. A little chill in the air, getting to be fall. So, hey, today we got a Rock'em Sock'em show for you. We're going to go through, you guessed it, or you didn't guess it because that's why you're tuned in, the SimpleCoach Top 25s, the poll of polls, the ring of power. I realize this is a little bit late. It's been a crazy. I mean, this is a YouTube influencing day. I got so much on my plate. So be on the lookout. I mean, I got Fields of Dreams sitting out there just waiting to be edited. I have a really cool interview coming up this afternoon. Some more perspectives on the game and whatnot. Trying to figure out when to schedule, an episode of the new show. I don't know. Just crazy. I think I need an admin, but the chief dog officer is like, yeah, no way, can't have that. So, all right. So, yeah. So as usual, let's begin. I'm going to honor this one again for Rob One Take Harrington, who does some really cool stuff on Twitter, giving updates, and he does it in one take. So I'm going to try to do this in one take. Just because it'll just make life that much easier. Yeah, I don't know. All right. So, and obviously I can't do this in one take because I totally botched. Hang on. So I have much to learn from Rob One Take Harrington. Completely didn't set up my thing. So let's begin. Like I said, top 25 women's. But you know what? First of all, let me just say, this on both sides of the game, there's some really interesting teams out there that I keep an eye on, just because they seemingly are doing very well. I can't say that I've gotten to watch them, but now that I've seen them, I will probably see if I can't catch a game for a little bit. Obviously, I've spoken about Illinois Institute of Technology at 11-2-1. They just lost to Chicago, I believe, 1-0. But that's a great showing. So I'm really intrigued by them. It's happening on the men's side. Now I notice on the women's side a 10-1-1 Carleton out of Minnesota. Really looking sharp. And then another one that just popped up that I was just sort of looking, there's still a couple undefeatables, WashU, and Mary Hardin Baylor, but I was looking for other ones, and University of Southern Maine, the Huskies. I have not seen. This is my first comments about them at 11-0-2. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at them. So, but let's dive into the top 25s now. This is getting a little tricky. Quality of teams. I'm sort of starting to go with, okay, who do I think really, from a playing perspective, is better best, and trying to really make the top 25 legitimately top 25 and not so much focused on the record, but more on the team, how they play, how they play big games and whatnot. So at 7-0-4, number 25, with a win and a tie, we're going with Washington and Lee. They tied a very good Lynchburg team in their latest go around. Okay, at 24, new to the poll, 10-1-1 MIT. They had wins against Wheaton, Springfield, and once ranked Williams. So the MIT Engineers, another Engineers team. At 8-1-2, Montclair State. They won. They beat Arcadia 2-1, and then they tied against in a New Jersey brawl against Rowan. So next up, Loras at 10-1 and coming in at in the 22nd spot. Loras had a really good 4-1 win against 7-2-1 Dubuque. So they're a quality program. Swarthmore, number 21, 9-0-1. They had 2 wins this past week for a combined score of 7-1 against Bryn Mawr and Ursinus. At 20, 9-2-1, Pacific Lutheran. They beat Puget Sound and Willamette. Hardin Simmons, 9-0-2. They had, again, 2 wins, Latorno and East Texas Baptist. But, the truth of the matter for Hardin Simmons, the game's going to come down to playing against undefeatable Mary Hardin Baylor. I think that's in a week or two. That's for all the marbles as far as I'm concerned for both teams. Like, are you legit UMHB, Hardin Simmons? Do you really want to be really on the national stage? So 10-0-2, number 18 Calvin, the Knights. They had wins at St. Mary's, and then they won 2-0 against Hope College, which they're very good. Next up, number 17 at 9-1. NYU, they beat Sarah Lawrence and they beat Chicago. Combined score of 11-2. That's 5.5 goals per. It's pretty remarkable. Down 4 spots, 8-0-2. Sorry, Rowan. To number 16, they had a tie at Montclair State. And then also down 5 spots, Cal Lutheran at 10-0-2. They beat Whittier, and then they tied against the Redlands. So not sure if this is the time of year where you're going to start to see teams either rise to the occasion, or you're going to start seeing teams, it's been a season so far, so the legs are starting to get heavy and all that stuff. So next up, number 14 Messiah at 9-2. They've had 5 wins in a row. They've scored 16 and they've only conceded 1. That's since the 2 losses that they had earlier in the season. So they're firing away. Leading up, Wisconsin La Crosse, number 13 at 11-1. They beat a very good Wisconsin Whitewater and a Wisconsin Platteville this past week. So they're up a spot. Speaking of spots, down a spot, Pomona Pitzer at 10-1. They beat Laverne. I think this is just a condition of they only played the 1 game, so there's a lot of shuffling up and down, a spot or 2 here and there. So next up, from Ewing, New Jersey, College of New Jersey, the Lions at 9-1-1. They're up 6 spots. They had 2 more wins against Rutgers Newark and Ramapo, so they're cruising along in the NJAC. Next up, the Mammoths, number 10, Amherst at 9-1-1. They're rocking it. They beat Bowdoin. They beat Wesleyan. All right, so they're coolly dispatching their NESCAC rivals. So next up, no change, is the University at number 9 of Hartford. The newcomer to Division III, they're at 8-2. had 2 wins for a combined score of 13-1. So, like I said, I dropped them down to this low. I would not be surprised if they make it all the way to the big dance at the end of the season, because I think they're good. I think they're very good. So I think the only thing is they concede goals, right? Like they don't have that lockdown offense or defense. So okay, down 3 spots just by the fact that they didn't have any games. At 6-0-3, William Smith of Hobart and Smith. And then they are up a spot. Yes, up a spot. Can you believe it? I just want this memorialized. Up a spot. University of Paywall, the Rochester ladies, at 8-0-3. They beat Houghton, and they tied a very, very good number 1 ranked Carnegie Mellon. So really, really good. And this despite the fact that I'm still blocked on Exeter. So, okay. So next up, coming in at number 6, Coach Gunderson's team, Christopher Newport at 10-0-1. They beat Mary Washington. Like I said, they're looking a lot more like the national championship team than they did last year. So they're top notch. Up 2 spots, Mary Hardin Baylor, one of the 2 undefeatables, and actually playing very, very well. Not only are they undefeatable, they have not been scored on this season. All right, so they beat Howard Payne and Sol Ross this last week. Again, not conceding any goals, right? So that's remarkable at this stage in the game. Okay, and at 4, Johns Hopkins, 10-1-1. They keep winning. Yeah, they go this week. I think, was it last night, yesterday, or tonight? If it's Wednesday, they travel to Gettysburg, which is always a little bit of a trap game, and then they play Franklin and Marshall this week. Hang on. I like my RPI mug. That's pretty cool. Anyhow. Okay, next up, number 3. Case Western Reserve, 10-0-1. They're in the same spot as they were last week. They had a huge win against Emory on Saturday or Sunday, I believe. And then they head to, you guessed it, University of Paywall on Saturday. So we can anticipate maybe a little bit of a shakeup in this top sphere of the top 25s, just based on some of those games. Okay, and number 2, dropping a spot. Oh my gosh. Again, this is going to be remarkable. At 11-0-1, Carnegie Mellon, the Carnegie Mellon Tartans. They dropped one, like I mentioned. You know why? Again, because I was blocked on Exeter. University of Paywall, Rochester tied them on Saturday. Excuse me, they head there on Saturday. So, I mean, University of Paywall is all over my channel. So maybe I should get a sponsorship. They can give me a free subscription to watch their games. Okay, and then lastly, because Carnegie Mellon fell on the basis of the tie against University of Paywall, Wash U, the Bears, at 11-0. They are undefeatable. They have yet to be scored on. Their next 3 games, though, I mean, listen to this schedule. They play NYU. They play Carnegie Mellon. And then they're at Case. If they get through those, I mean, that to me is like this could cement them at number 1. Right? And they're good enough to do it, so. All right, so let me just rehash that. At number 10, you got Amherst 9-1-1. At number 9, 8-2 Hartford. At 6-0-3, William Smith of Hobart and Smith. At 8-0-3, University of Paywall, Rochester. 10-0-1 at number 6 is Christopher Newport. 11-0, Mary Hart and Baylor at number 5. Johns Hopkins at 10-1-1 at number 4. At number 3, Case Western Reserve at 10-0-1. Carnegie Mellon at 11-0-1 is in number 2 spot. And number 1 for this week's SimpleCoach Top 25, Wash U at 11-0, claiming the top seat. So, okay. So with that, let us move to the men. Again, sort of like what I did before with the ladies. It's there's a lot of teams out there that are sort of like ringing some bells that, to me, are either been, just dropped, or for whatever the circumstance, just to be remarkable teams in their own right. And so I mean, it's almost like I should maybe do a top 50. That's too much work, but you get my point. Like, I'm just looking at, no one's talking, but there's not a lot of talk about Colorado College at 7-2-1, taking down some big dogs, right? Good quality team, beautiful stadium set up with the Rockies. Great program, great coach. Kane University in New Jersey, another Jersey team, 8-0-4. I mean, you know what I should look for? I think they might be playing Montclair at some point. Like that might be the, or maybe they played. I can't remember. My Mount Union Purple Raiders, had a rough couple days. Lost to Ohio Northern, and then I think tied Heidelberg or somebody like that they shouldn't have. So really, yeah. So, but they're still in it. So they keep taking care of business. They could legitimately be. Lebanon Valley 9-1-1. They lost to Messiah. Another really good team. Wisconsin Whitewater at 11-0-4. Like, what are they drinking out there? Water out in Wisconsin. And then lastly, Virginia Wesleyan at 10-2. They seem to be doing it consistently year over year, and so I think they're just looking for a breakout year. And could this be it? So, all right. So let's get to the men. Let's run through this. All right, new to the top 25s. Speaking of, Coach Rob One Take Harrington, head coach at Milwaukee School of Engineering, MSOE, at 11-1-1. Since they started the season with a win, a loss, and a tie, and they've won 10 games in a row. So you got to give them credit where credit is due. Also new to the top 25s. Yes, they've earned it. They've come back. Like, there was touch and go there, seemingly, at 9-3. Kenyon. Talk about statement games. Hey, let's beat Ohio Wesleyan and Denison in 1 week. So, really big. Back in the top 25s, 9-2-1. Coach Dayon's John Carroll University Blue Streaks. They beat Heidelberg and Marietta. At number 22, Coach Poe's 7-2-1 Case Western Reserve Spartans. They're down 6 spots. They beat NYU again. I've mentioned this before. NYU having a little bit of a rough year, um, and then they had a really tough loss against Emory. And then Saturday they traveled to the University of Paywall, Rochester, to play there. So could be a big weekend for them. Next up at 21, down 6 spots at 8-2-1, St. Thomas, Texas. Now, I went back and forth. I literally thought about dropping them and their opponent this past week, Texas Lutheran, because I thought what I watched was kind of a little bit disgraceful, not only from some players. I just think it for those of you who don't know, multitude of fights. I think there were 5 red cards. I just, to me, like, I don't mind competitiveness and going back and forth, and I don't mind the trash talking and all that stuff. But once you start with the roughness and you start fighting, like physical push and all that kind of stuff, that really turns me off. So I actually thought about dropping both St. Thomas and Texas Lutheran this week as my mild form of protest. But again, I try to look at the totality events, and I believe in redemption and all that. So I just thought, okay, just leave them in and just make a comment. So Texas Lutheran, or St. Thomas, Texas, they beat Texas Lutheran in a crazy, crazy, awful game, 3-2. So there you have it there, at number 21. Next up, 7-1-3, Bowdoin, down 7. They beat Trinity, but then they lost to Amherst. So I'll just put this up there. Like the same thing applies as what I said about St. Thomas. Same thing applies to Texas Lutheran. Down 16 spots to 12-1. I think that's my rebellious, my protest. So I'll leave it. All right, next up, another Texas team that is playing quite well, up 4 spots. Trinity at 8-1-2. They had 2 wins, but in 10 days, they traveled to play Colorado College, who I mentioned earlier. So that's going to be one heck of a game. Number 17, Lynchburg, 9-1-2. They tied Shenandoah, which I'm surprised, but then they beat Mary Washington. So excuse me, they tied Mary Washington. So that was a good tie. The Shenandoah one, I wasn't sure is a good tie. Again, having no idea how to judge the merits of ties yet. So, because I'm sure it's going to matter on some level. Number 16 out of Minnesota at 11-1, Carleton. They beat Cornell. I think it's Cornell. At 16, 8-1-1. Christopher Newport, the captains. They beat Roanoke. They beat Salisbury. On the 14th, circle your calendar, which is when? The 14th is Saturday. They play Mary Washington. That is going to be a humdinger. That might be. There's so many humdingers this weekend. But okay, next up, SUNY Oneonta, down 7 spots. I was shockingly, and again, this is not a game I watched, full confession, but when I see the score line, Cortland beat Oneonta 3-0. They followed it up with a win against Oswego, but the Cortland game had me surprised. Like, I thought it would be a lot tighter than that. So, okay, next up, a team I'm a big fan of. First interview ever. Coach Burke has the Connecticut Camels at 7-0-3. They had a huge win against Amherst, and then they tied Williams, but they are playing very, very well. Like, they're a pleasure to watch if you ever get a chance. Next up, Calvin Knights, 9-2-1 at number 12. Up 12 spots, yes. They had 2 great wins, one against Trine and another against Hope. So they keep doing it. They're always in the picture. Again, another team. At 6-2-3, shockingly down 6 spots. They had a tie against Carthage, and then they lost to NYU, who, like I said, has been having, they might be 2-6-3, I think, or something like that, 2-5-2. So I get it's Conference UA, but that's a surprise loss for a team like Chicago's caliber. So yeah, I told you, Paul Newman. The Chicago team doesn't have me as convinced as it did last year. So watch, now they'll win it. All right. So top tens. Number 10, Middlebury at 7-0-3. They tied Vassar and beat Colby. So, yeah, this is another team I'm not 100% convinced with, but I mean, they're doing well. So, next up, down 3 spots, 10-2-1. Cortland State, Coach Axtell. From California, University of the Redlands at 9-1-1, up 11 spots. They beat Caltech, and then they beat Cal Lutheran by a combined score of 8-2. So they can put the ball in the back of the net. NESCAC, Tufts, the Jumbos at 7-1-3. They tied Babson, and they followed with a win against Emerson. This is a good team, don't get me wrong. So they got a lot of energy, especially on the attack. So next up from Jersey, 10-1-1, leading scorer of the country, Amir Lukovic. Probably one of the 3 players of the year for me already, right? Like I think you might be able to done and dust that one, to be quite honest. Keep scoring like this, you can't. You have especially against the schedule they play. It's just, I'm not sure you can deny. So they did lose, though, I will say, to Penn State Abington, but I'm not sure about that one. That one, right? Because then they followed it up, which was the big game for them. In the end, Jack, they beat Rowan 4-1. It's pretty solid. So, okay, down a spot. Coach Serpone's Mammoths of Amherst at 8-2-2. They had a win-loss and a tie. Like I said, they had a big loss against what I think is a resurgent. I don't know if that's the right word. Connecticut, and then they tied Wesleyan. So. Here's a team that impresses. I'm still iffy on how they play, but, they are looking impressive at number 4, up 6 spots. So it's not insignificant for me to put them here. Like, I put in a lot of thought on this one. 9-1-2, the Diplomats of Franklin and Marshall. They are firing on all cylinders. And they beat a very good Muhlenberg team 4-2, right? 4-2. And Muhlenberg is having the season of seasons this year. So that's pretty significant. So I got to give these guys credit. And again, Coach Wagner, I'm not sure what he does, how he does it, but every year they're in the mix. So I'll give him some credit. And then also another one that is really impressive to watch. The Coach Ficino's North Central at 11-1-1. They tied Wheaton, but then they bounced back and thumped Carthage 7-2. So this is a team to watch. Seriously, they can play. They play very, very well. Very solid defensively. And they're very much a team. I've seen them score goals where they've moved the ball. Everyone touches the ball. get through everybody, and the other team hasn't had a chance, and they put it in the back of the net. I think they're that good. So, yeah, I think very worthy of that. And then number 2, no changes here. Mary Washington. They tied against, again, number 17 Lynchburg, right? Like that's a tough battle. Yeah, so they're staying their spot. And then followed by, again, no change, the obvious one, Messiah, who quite frankly has been my top 25 number 1 for the last probably 2 years. And look, an undefeatable Widener University went to Grantham and lost 2-0 to Messiah. So they can take care of they can take care of business. So, all right, so that covers it. I'll run down the top 10 again. Number 10, Middlebury at 7-0-3. Cortland State, number 9, 10-2-1. Number 8, University of Redlands, 9-1-1. 7-1-3, Tufts in number 7th. Montclair State, 10-1-1 in the 6th spot. In the 5th, you have Amherst at 8-2-2. The Diplomats in number 4 at 9-1-2. The Cardinals, who still give me agita, their football team, but anyhow, at 11-1-1. Mary Washington at 9-1-1 in the 2nd spot, and number 1 again for this week. The Messiah Falcons. So on the women's side, Wash U, number 1. This on the men's side, it is Messiah. So that covers the top 25s. I hope you enjoyed. If you agree, disagree, down below. Really do appreciate it. I also recommend you checking out the fan poll on d3boards.com that a bunch of us contribute to. My top 25 goes into that, is one component of that. So I would recommend you check that out. That's also games as of Sunday. I'd also suggest you check out the Massey ratings, which is like a statistical analysis of teams and based on wins and strength of schedule and previous year performance and all that stuff. It's much more mathematical in that regard. So, but I would suggest you check that out because that's like a live feed, right? So when a game is played today, that automatically updates. So, really interesting stuff. And then obviously the United Soccer Coaches poll is really interesting because you can just sort of see the regional rankings are really good to get a sense as to how teams are viewed within their own region. The national poll probably, it's better when the tournament starts. Say that. Okay. Hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, got a lot of stuff coming out. If I ever get the time, I got to go on a business trip tonight and then for tomorrow. So good chunk of my day. So Friday might be a crazy day of just churning out stuff. So hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed this, and we will talk soon. Later.